driven by success. The only thing that drove him now was the tremendous task he faced of convincing Gina to give him another chance. And if given that chance, he would give her every damn thing she had ever asked for. The honeymoon they'd never gotten around to taking, the baby she'd always wanted, and more time for them to spend together, since he'd always been constantly on the go. A part of him refused to believe it was too late, that things were completely over between them. So he was headed to Houston with a plan, and it was a plan he intended to make work by any means necessary. 1. There were certain things that a woman just couldn't forget. For instance, she could not forget the time she progressed from girl into woman, the time she began wearing her first bra, her first date, the first time she fell in love, and the first time she had made love. Gina was reminded of the latter two as she sat across from the man who had played an instrumental role in both, her ex-husband, Mitch Farrell. She tried to concentrate on what he was saying, and not on the memories invading her mind. Memories of naked bodies and silken sheets, of love-making sessions that had seemed to last forever, of orgasms of the highest intensity that had no endings. Seeing Mitch again reminded her of all those things. It also reminded her of pain still lingering deep within, and was a rude awakening that even 2 years after their divorce, he was not yet out of her system, not fully out of her heart. That thought made her rather uncomfortable. "What about it, Gina?" Mitch asked softly after taking a leisurely sip of his wine, interrupting her thoughts. The eyes that met his were curious yet reserved. They sat at a corner table in Sisters, a well-known restaurant in downtown Houston. On weekends, it was usually filled to capacity. But tonight, a weeknight, the amount of people dining was a good number. Not too many to be considered crowded, and not too few to be considered cozy. The atmosphere was relaxing, comfortable, and tranquil. "Why me, Mitch? Why have you come to me with such a generous offer?" she finally asked him, her brows knit. He smiled before his gaze shifted to the magazine in front of him, having expected her question. "I think the answer to that is obvious. The piece you did on Jake Medeiros and Diamond Swain was outstanding and says it all." She smiled. "Thank you." When wealthy rancher Jake Medeiros and movie actress Diamond Swain had announced to the world they were married, and had been for nearly 2 years, everyone had wanted their story. It had been Gina Grant Farrell, a 28-year-old freelance writer and family friend of the Medeiros family, whom the couple had gotten to do the exclusive interview and write the article. Before then, Gina had done a number of jobs for various publications, but the piece on Jake and Diamond for People magazine had brought her skill as a journalist into the national spotlight. "And you know how I am when it comes to my privacy, Gina," he continued. "You know me better than anyone, and I think it's time people knew the real Mitch Farrell as well. I want you to be the one to tell my story, because I know you'll be fair and objective." Gina inhaled slowly. Yes, she did know him, and at one time she'd felt she had known him better than anyone. But that had been before the demise of their marriage. After that, she'd wondered if she'd really known him at all. She silently admitted there were times when she thought there were things about his past that he refused to share with her. But the one thing she did know was that Mitch wasn't the cold, hard, self-made millionaire the media made him out to be. He was fast becoming one of the largest land developers in the country, and everyone wanted to know all they could about the elusive, wealthy divorcee who'd made his mark in real estate. "People might think I'd be less objective since we were once married," she finally said. "Or they may think that since we were married, you would have the inside scoop if there were any. I want my story told, Gina, so people can stop speculating." Again, she was surprised. The Mitch she knew wouldn't have cared what anyone thought. She had been a journalist long enough to know that people liked reading whatever they could get their hands on about the rich and famous, regardless of whether the information was true. "The speculation may not stop, Mitch. It may only increase." "I know, but I want to put it in writing once and for all that I live a very normal and very dull life that doesn't include a different woman in my bed every night." Gina took a sip of her wine. She was glad to hear that.